Hello and welcome to episode 19 of the Guinness World Records Gamers Podcast. I'm your host and editor of the Gamers Book, Mike Plant, and with me as ever is Luke Wakeham, our gaming records manager.
Hi.
And our pair of freelance gaming journalists, Jack Turner.
Hello.
And Andy Loughlin.
Hello.
Hi, how are you guys doing? We've got a great show for you this week. A lot of news to get through, actually. Some surprising little bits and pieces that have come up. If you enjoy the show, then please check out our other shows. You can Google GWR Gamers and you'll find us on YouTube, on iTunes, on Spotify, and pretty much everywhere else you can possibly stream a podcast.
Morse code,
Winking.
semaphore, winking.
And if you want to get in touch, probably rather than winking, you can tweet us at GWR Gamers. So please do that too. All right, let's get on with the show.
All right.
Okay, so to start, shall we chat about the games we've been playing? I'm only saying this so excitedly because I'm excited to talk about the game I've been playing this week, which isn't a particularly new game.
Would you want to go first then?
Yeah, I do.
Why not?
So I've been playing Tetris 99, which I know you've chatted about a few shows ago. Man, what a game! I'm addicted.
Well,
utterly addicted.
If you like Tetris, this is the game for you.
Yeah. If you like Tetris and you like 99 other people. So basically, did you know that Twitch, if you're an Amazon Prime subscriber, then you can get Twitch Prime, and through that now you can get free Nintendo online for 3 months, and then you get another voucher for the rest of the 9 months.
It's a big say. I know you guys were holding fire on that because it's £16. You want to throw them
yeah, absolutely. So instead of buying £16, I bought £70 worth of stuff from Amazon.
Of course,
which makes perfect financial sense.
And watch the Grand Tour.
That's why my wife won't give me. My wife won't give me a credit card. But yeah, in better news, it did mean that I got to play Tetris 99, which only came about because I was trying to play Treasure Stack, which I talked about a few shows ago, which is my jam when I'm on the train. But it turns out that, as far as I can tell, no one's playing that online. So I was like, okay, what else can I play?
Reassuring.
I think I might be the best player in the world at Treasure Stack if no one else is playing it.
You can't do that by default.
I'm claiming that title.
The best 1 out of 1.
But so it led me to be thinking, well, what else can I play? And I didn't really fancy going down anything too tricky. So I got hold of Tetris 99. I know how to play Tetris, I thought. Turns out I'm not so good at Tetris. I finished 7th once, and I've had quite a lot of.
Good.
7th is good.
Yeah, pretty
About
good.
100.
Once you get past to the final 10, they just drop like stones. It's the what they call the
Tetronymos.
Tetris pieces.
What are your killer strats?
Strats.
All the Tetris heads out
strats,
there.
Yeah.
Are you T-spinning?
So I don't know what teaspooning is. No, not really much. So one of the things you couldn't do in the old days of Game Boy Tetris is in this one you can store a piece in your locker for later. So I usually get the long, thin piece to then get Tetrises later.
Classic.
So I store one of those away when it first comes up, and I'm basically horrendous because you can choose if you want to KO people who are near to being knocked out, or if you can get revenge on people who are attacking you. And there's one called badges. I don't actually know what that even means. I've not looked that one up.
I think that's kind of like a multiplayer. If you're generating trash lines, I think the more badges you have, the more you send out.
Right, so you can target people who are doing that as well.
I think.
And then there's just randoms. You can target other people who you send your trash to. And I tend to just build up Tetrises as much as possible and unleash those where possible to just annoy people. And I generally set it on the KO one, so I'm doing that to people who are nearly dead anyway. So I'm such a lovely person.
Yeah.
But man, it's really addictive and really good. I'm enjoying a lot.
It is good, especially for free. It's a nice little surprise, isn't it? Nintendo made this game and just gave it for free.
Is it Nintendo published? Then I didn't actually check that out.
I don't think it is. Is it? I don't think it is.
Let's look it up. Someone look it up while I'm talking.
Who owns Tetris now?
I think it's public domain or something.
I don't know.
I thought EA.
So much research goes into the creation of this show.
What is Tetris?
I was going to ask, do you have any sort of strategies for the starting of a game? Because I've played a couple times and I always feel like I get just attacked constantly by like 3 or 4 people. I might be because I've got I immediately default to attackers.
Yeah.
So anyone's attacking me, I'm attacking them, and so it snowballs.
Yeah.
So I was wondering what the best one is, because you always get attacked no matter what. But like, is there certain strategies you can do. So I always do it KOs. I think, well, if someone's about to die, they're probably not going to put a load of Tetris like
you never know,
trash on me.
Stored a load up.
Well, they might have. But then by the same token, I always think, well, if you attack the attackers who are attacking you, then it's a never-ending cycle, and you're basically picking on each other until you are out. So
it's
yeah,
a metaphor for life.
Yeah, right. Yeah, it really is.
Well, it seems weird that you've almost got to try and hide yourself for a bit, for the first like 20 at least, just sort of like try and not make any noise, and then suddenly lurch into it.
Yeah.
Go for the KOs maybe.
It's a really interesting game. There's loads. It is published by Nintendo, so there you go.
Stand corrected.
Yeah.
I do like the clicks. You know, when you're like turning pieces around and making them go down. I think it's really satisfying. The little click 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 click.
It's also,
I don't know why, but it just is.
It also does a thing that was like when I was a child playing Tetris on the Game Boy would have been unheard of, where it shows you exactly where the piece is, like a ghost piece.
Oh yeah.
And it shows you exactly where it's going to fit in.
Wow, really?
And then so that you can line it up.
Changer.
And then you press like the up arrow, and then it instantly goes there. So there's no like what was it called that the Tetris World Champion was doing? It's like hyper tapping.
Oh,
you don't need any of that. You can just send it straight down. Anyway, yeah. So that was me and Tetris 99, which is a fantastic game. You just need to obviously have the Switch Online account, the Nintendo Online to have it.
You can't play just single player.
No. I was looking on the train to have a bit of a practice, but no. So then I was back on Treasure Stack.
So that's quite frustrating, isn't it? Because it'd be nice to just play Tetris if you wanted to.
You have to buy, you
Tetris.
can buy Tetris from other sources.
Is
Get
that game available?
Puyo Tetris.
I heard it was coming out soon. Yeah.
There's Puyo, and then what was the new one that came out?
Tetris Effect.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah.
And
That's
that's
like the VR one.
The VR, yeah. Apparently, it's supposed to be really good, but apparently it's like there's quite a lot going on, and it's better
there's a
in
lot
VR.
in the background going
Yeah.
on.
I've played it in VR, and so that the background moves around, which can be quite distracting when you just try and focus on putting the blocks in place. But it's very cool though.
It is like quite incredible how Tetris, 25 years later or 30 years later, whatever, is still brilliant.
It's just a good game,
Genius,
isn't it? Like the basic game is good.
And it's spawned all
Game good.
Me like game good. I mean, it's not. They don't need to add any fluff to it. It's just lining up blocks is pretty cool. As it turns out.
I mean, like you say, like, chess needs a bit of tweaking. I think what I mean. Like, it just works, doesn't it, as a game? So it's whatever kind of spin you put on it. It's
T-spin.
T-spin. Yeah.
Right.
And then it kind of spawned all those Bejeweled and Candy Crush sort of variants on the kind of theme, isn't it?
They're nothing in comparison.
They are.
But Treasure Stack now, that's a different
Treasure Stack, yeah.
I love that one.
Although no one's playing it. So.
Well, no one's playing it online. Maybe there's loads of people who are also playing it lonely on their own on trains.
Yeah, without doubt, yeah.
So who wants to go next?
Were you looking at me?
You're talking.
I'm not. I wasn't looking straight at
looking
you. I
past
was just
you.
looking
Well, where were you
towards at the pair of you.
I'll go. So I've been playing Vaporum, which is a dungeon crawler game on the Switch. It's been already on Steam for a while, I think, hasn't it? And been on PC, and I think it's on something else. I think it's on Xbox or something. I'm not sure, but it's a classic old school dungeon crawler.
Look.
Yeah, you have a look. You move around on a grid system. You kind of move things around your inventory. You sort of solve basic puzzles. There's some kind of very kind of basic combat going on. It's pretty old school. Like it's kind of everything you would expect from that game. It starts off in a kind of odd way. I'm not really spoiling it here, where you sort of washed up on this in the kind of ocean, and you see a lighthouse, and you go towards the lighthouse and go in the lighthouse, which obviously has quite strong rings of BioShock. I was watching it going, seriously? Like, surely that you've played BioShock. It's got kind of a steampunk vibe, so again, that kind of has a bit of echoes with a few things. It's quite nicely put together. It feels a bit clunky, though, I've got to say. It feels a bit like old school, not necessarily in a good way. Like Thimbleweed Park was old school in a good way. It played its retro cards very well. And you forgave it for that. This one feels a little bit retrograde, if you ask me.
Is it like the sort of old Eye of the Beholder games and things like that?
It's very similar to those kind of sort of almost kind of role play type games. That kind of there is a market for the dungeon crawlers. I mean, I'm not madly fond of them, but if you like that kind of going down and you basically solving a puzzle of to why this thing exists, this lighthouse thing exists, why it's there, and what connection it's got to him. So obviously it's not massively original in that sense, but I've heard that story a few times. But it, it's nicely put together. The kind of puzzles are quite interesting. They're quite engaging. You've got to kind of use the environment. There's a little bit of combat. There's a little bit of inventory management. It's not bad. I mean, I just it's not necessarily anything spankingly new.
Apparently, it came out in 2017 on Steam, and is on PS4 and Xbox.
Wow!
So you play it everywhere, whether you would.
So it's turn-based, right?
No. It's not.
It's real time.
It's first person, isn't it?
Yeah.
But it's more old school than a BioShock, I presume.
Yeah, you don't. If you engage an enemy, it doesn't lock into a combat. The enemy just comes at you, and you either got a gun or a kind of a crowbar.
So it's corridors. Basically.
Yeah,
it's like a grid system.
Yeah, so basically you're turning on a kind of like axis, and it kind of flips really fast. So it's like gives you a bit of whiplash.
But then when
perfect for VR.
I guess it's it probably would be actually, wouldn't it? But it's intentionally designed to feel like one of those old games.
Yeah, it's on a grid system. You're moving around a very sort of defined plane. You're moving into different rooms and different areas on a map, and kind of going deeper and deeper into the mystery of this lighthouse. So it's kind of, it's exactly what it is. You, as long as you don't expect anything like revelatory, it's perfectly well put together. Looks okay. It's got like kind of nice cutscenes with sort of slightly illustrative style. The inside is kind of okay.
But again, okay a lot.
Yeah, I'm not mad keen on it.
All right.
I like. It's difficult because you do get spoiled these days with kind of games, and like it does make it hard to kind of forgive sometimes. It's like when you read a bad book, it's like.
But do you think if you were someone who grew up with those sort of dungeon crawler games, would it be more appealing to you?
Maybe. I mean, but I'm coming at it from a kind of new experience type thing, and I just didn't find it that interesting. Yeah. So, gotta be honest.
Fair enough. Jack, what have you been up to?
Well, not much. Just been relaxing.
just breathing.
So I've been playing a bit more of Yoshi's Crafted World, which is still brilliant. The other night I went to the space level, and I got in a little washing up liquid space rocket. It's awesome. I still absolutely love that game.
Less gravity in the space world?
Yes, you jump higher in space. Those people at Nintendo know what they're doing.
Yeah.
It's still utterly charming. It gets a little bit harder towards the end. I'm sort of in the end game now. It gets a little bit harder, by which I mean there are platforms to jump on, and you might miss one and fall. But it's still very generous with you.
Is there is it a spoiler? Is there a boss? Is there going to be like a boss fight with a Bowser?
Well, you have boss fights along the way. So, and yes,
there's a main antagonist.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and like within the first cutscene, someone steals a load of, I won't give away who, but someone steals a load of gems. But if you've played a Mario game before, you can probably guess which combination of people.
Usually the character that nicks the gems isn't actually the end boss. So.
Well, you have to wait and see. I can't tell you, can I? Because
spoiler alert.
But yeah, still really having a good time with it. I've not gone back to Sekiro since we last played.
No, neither have I. I had a busy weekend though, so I didn't really get a chance, and I was playing Tetris a lot.
Was that your busy weekend?
Yeah. No, it was my son's second birthday, so I was busy. Busy. Happy birthday, Henry.
You bought him Sekiro.
Yeah.
Re-gifted.
Obviously, I can't play that when he's around either, so that does tend to curtail the amount of time I can play. Luke.
I've been playing a few things. I've been sort of preparing myself for certain releases.
I realise we both got Japan t-shirts on.
Oh yeah, we do.
Very dapper.
Cool. So firstly, there's I think a game releasing today called Dangerous Driving. These are the guys. These are from a load of devs who made the original Burnout games.
Three Fields Entertainment, is it?
Yes.
Yeah.
Is it a top-down one, or because they made a top-down version, didn't they? At some
They
point?
made Dangerous Golfing, which was
maybe
basically
I'm
you
thinking about
smacking a
that.
ball into a room and breaking lots of stuff.
I think I'm thinking of a mobile actual Burnout game that was top
Oh,
down.
I remember that.
Yeah,
Burnout
anyway.
Crash, wasn't it, or something?
Yeah.
I do remember that
perhaps,
one.
yeah. Anyway,
Well, I haven't been playing that. I've been playing Burnout Revenge.
Oh,
Just sort
right.
of trying to get my hand in. This is from the Xbox 360 era.
Hmm.
I really like these games. They're just fun, like really visceral arcade races. I mean, all the cars feel kind of exactly the same in terms of handling. They just like as you progress through the game, they just get faster and faster and faster. That's about it, really.
Right.
But the game is all about sort of holding down the boost button, never letting it go, and constantly just trying to weave in and out of traffic. Or there are some modes where you have to bash into other racers and knock them off. Really fun. It's got a great soundtrack to it, kind of like the Tony Hawk type stuff. It's got lots of punk and like indie type stuff on there. The new game coming out, I think it's doesn't have any of this licensed music because it's a bit of a budget title, but it does incorporate, allows you to incorporate your Spotify account, so you can come up with whatever playlist you want,
clever, isn't it?
and off you go.
Yeah.
So that's kind of intriguing. Whether or not I'll get it, I don't know. I'm actually kind of enjoying playing Burnout Revenge because I think this one introduced a thing called traffic checking, where if you are racing behind traffic, if you're going with the traffic, you can just shunt them from behind and they just fly off and flip over, unless you encounter like a truck or a bus and then you just crash.
When I was a student, so a very long time ago, we used to play a lot of Burnout 2 Crash mode. Only the Crash mode, really.
I remember that.
Crash mode is fun with the
yeah,
aftertouch.
it was so good.
Maximise your line.
So good. Are you blowing up with a...
There was one level particularly where there was like a glitch in the game, and if you just got it just right, you'd make like this massive explosion where all the cars just blew into the universe. Basically, it was amazing.
Wow.
So yeah, been enjoying that. Have you got anything else? Sorry, Andy. Or?
I was just going to say, it just popped in my head, when's that Goose game out? I really want
I
to play that.
don't think it's
What
got
made
a
you think
title.
of that?
I just was thinking about
Where
it.
did that come
Not
from?
related at
I really
all.
want to play that Goose game.
Yeah, so
When
do
is that
I.
out?
Do you just think about it? periodically?
Internet, when is the Goose game out?
Hey Google.
Hey,
When is
hey,
Goose?
hey, Siri.
Hey Siri. When is Goose Game out?
That not Goose Game.
That I would say. So 3 Fields Entertainment. They made Dangerous Golf, which I reviewed back in the day, and they made a couple of other car games as well, didn't they? Sort of really stripped down.
Danger Zone or
That's
something.
on Danger Zone 2.
Danger Zone.
But all the while, people have been asking them for a Burnout
Bring
style
Burnout
game.
back.
Yeah, and they've been building up to it. And the previous games haven't done that well, so I think they're pinning everything on this. And but like you say, it does seem like a budget title. The fact there's no music, you have to incorporate your own music, and
Well, there's probably a bit of
I think there's
like jazz or something.
I think there's literally no music.
I think there's some ambient stuff, and
Yeah.
when you're doing the aftertouch thing, it kind of goes.
Right.
No way.
So hopefully people like it enough that this turns their fortunes around, because the other games haven't done that well. But,
Do you remember, did you play Pure with the Black Rock Studios one? Was it called
Was that the
Pure?
buggy?
Yeah.
You have ATV type thing.
And you had like kind of boosters, but also like you were competing against people. And I think it was almost like a little bit of Mario Kart to it, with like bonuses where you could kind of...
There was a game called Blur, which
Blur?
was like actual cars, but you could pick up weapons and boosters.
It
and
was
stuff
Blur,
like
that was it. I think it was Black Rock Studios, wasn't it, which was owned by Disney at that stage. That was a really good game, actually.
Blur is quite cool.
And then they immediately canned the studio.
But talking about other racers and more sort of karty-like racers, I've also been playing the original Crash Team Racing, because the new one is coming out, I think, in June, or like the remastered version.
Yeah.
Is it a remaster, reboot, remake? What is it?
Reimagined.
I guess it is more than a remaster, isn't it? Because I guess the assets are being completely redone from scratch.
I
so
think
it's
they
probably
are
a
also
remake.
adding a few bits of extra content as well from the other games. I really liked this game when it first came out. It's the only game I used to play with my brother. I wouldn't go so far as to say it's the anti-Mario Kart, but if you compare it to Mario Kart 64, it's certainly a lot tighter. Crash Team Racing is. There's also got a mechanic where if you are drifting around a corner, you've got a little meter that goes from green to red. If you tap the other shoulder button when it's red, you get an additional boost, and you can do 3 of them as you're sort of turning around a corner. This game has got kind of like an adventure mode as well, which has got all kinds of lots of different challenges and stuff in it. But yeah, no, I'm very much looking forward to the Nitro.
So how did the
one.
old version feel?
It felt good. It still felt good. I was playing it on a PS3 through there, and yeah, I mean the controls are still like nice and tight. It doesn't have that sort of weird disconnect that you sometimes get with a lot of PS1 games when you play them again. You're just like, I can't believe I ever had to put up with controls like this. It still feels tight and it still feels fun above everything. And then the final thing I've been playing, yes, I've got another one. Only quick one is Serious Sam, The First Encounter. I love these games. Big arena shooter that whenever you basically walk into a big, massive open area and then everything spawns in and you've got to take it on. Almost kind of like a puzzle game in how you've got to switch between your appropriate weapons. You're like, oh, I've got the guys who are just holding 2 bombs and screaming, even though they don't have a head, running at you. Take them out with like the Tommy gun, because they don't need that much. Or then, the big things spawn in, switch the rocket launcher, or then switch back to the shotgun, stuff like that. Love it.
Like a tower defense game in a way. Well, I know it's not tower defense, but the way it plays out like that, I suppose it's like
it's wave based.
Yeah, you are the Serious Sam.
Serious Sam is the tower. But yeah, love those games. I think there is another one apparently coming out at some point. I watched some pre-alpha
footage. Isn't there a VR one, or is that already out? I'm sure I read about that.
It rings a bell, yeah.
Everything's VR these days, isn't it?
Well, I think they did a mod for Duke Nukem 3D using the Serious Sam engine, so it looks all nice and up-resed and everything. But yeah, love those games.
Cool, thanks. Any more for any more? Is that
no?
Cool. All right. Well, let's move on to the week's news then, shall we? So, one of the big stories breaking last couple of days is that Microsoft is apparently going to combine its Xbox Live subscription with its Game Pass subscription. So this is a story that was leaked by this Xbox insider type person called Hoxod. Good anonymous name. And she is saying that it will cost $14.99, that's dollars, per month. And each service currently is about $10 in America.
Right.
So you'd basically be saving a $5. It seems to me quite a good deal. And it's obviously kind of timed the rumours coming out around the I can't remember the heck it was
Xbox
called
One
now.
X discless edition.
That one.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not quite called that though, is it? But,
Digital edition.
Yeah. But anyway, so it's kind of timed for whenever that console comes out. So I had a quick look at what's on the Game Pass, because I must admit I have no idea at the moment what's on the Game Pass.
Yeah.
There are more than 220 games, something like 224 or 5. And I listed some of the ones that stood out to me. So there's Minecraft, as you'd expect, Fallout 4, Shadow of the Tomb Raider, Just Cause 4, the Lego Movie, Deus Ex, Mankind Divided, Halo 5, Master Chief Collection, all the Gears of War games. So basically all the Halo and all the Gears of War games, which is a lot of gameplay right there anyway. And then you've got some sort of indies. There's also What Remains of Edith Finch. There's also Sea of Thieves, which could keep you going forever. Hitman's on there for you guys. I know you'll have a bit of Hitman.
I'm not seeing Forza.
Forza is on there. I just didn't. I didn't pick it out. Yeah. Well, basically, also there's I think they've said repeatedly now that every single Xbox game going forward that's first party will also be straight on this.
Pretty good.
So yeah, I mean, for your $15 a month, $15 a month, I should say, you're getting quite a decent deal here. It seems to me. I mean, if Sony did something, because not that I'm like a massive fanboy of one or the other, but it's just the PlayStation's what we play in our house, just because it's what we've got Netflix on as much as anything else, and it's just what we've got used to. But yeah, if Sony offered something similar where they had like 220 games that you could just go and play instantly, then I wouldn't quibble at paying. And it came with PS Plus.
Yeah.
And I don't think I'd quibble with having to pay a little bit more.
And also the benefit of that is, with PS Plus you get what you're given. If it's a rubbishy month and you've already played them or you're not bothered, you're basically stuffed, aren't you? For a month, so it is starting to make PS Plus look like a pretty not that great deal, really, isn't it?
Well, no, I mean this does put a bit of pressure on Sony, I think, especially if they just keep adding to it and keep adding more and more of the bigger games. I mean, it's cool and it's amazing. They've already got Shadow of the Tomb Raider, for example. In fact, they've got all of the Tomb Raider games, I'm pretty sure, from looking through it. So you could just play the Tomb Raider trilogy, which is quite high quality, really good games now, and just play through them. So it's a great. I know it's an instant games collection. It really is an instant games collection, isn't it? And then if you're putting things like Sea of Thieves on, but then already in your subscription is the cost of Xbox Live, you can instantly go on and play it online. It seems to me a decent deal.
You can download these and
so they're not streamed. Yeah,
right,
they're downloaded.
So it's not
to
like
your...
PlayStation Now, because I guess that's their equivalent, Sony's equivalent, that just I don't think quite has hit it off really. Has
Well, no, I mean the trouble with PlayStation Now is
you
need the streaming. Like how many times have we talked about that in the last? We started Stadia and all that stuff.
This does feel like more of a Netflix competitor than Stadia. Because the fact that you can download them and have them locally, 220 plus games, that is ridiculous. I mean, that is, you could just spend the rest of this generation playing these games and be quite happy. There's some really good titles on there.
Well, and when some of them are things like like Sea of Thieves, like I say, and what's the zombie one?
What's State of Decay?
Yeah, State of Decay 2.
Yeah.
And those games are pretty much just endless, go on forever. If you really like them, you can just play and play. So there's so many, unlimited hours of gameplay here and loads of variation.
And the fact that you get the Microsoft first-party stuff day and date as well. So when Crackdown came out,
that's on there. Yeah,
I think
didn't make my cut.
I think a lot of people found it hard to swallow that was a full-price game, because if you're signed up to this, it's free effectively.
Yeah. And I think what's interesting is it's quite clever from Microsoft, because they know they're behind with the pipeline of good games. So this feels like a good way to keep people happy about the, because ultimately I don't know what the economics or what they deal with. Say, for example, Shadow of the Tomb Raider. It's quite a recent game. Obviously, it's cannibalising a certain number of sales, isn't it? For whether they play it, there's a fee system in place. I don't know. I mean, obviously, we don't know the business behind it.
A lot of Square Enix titles are on here, so obviously they do have a deal in place with Square.
And Microsoft said, "Look, we'll give you some kind of deal, or we'll give you some exclusivity, or something." So obviously it must be palatable enough to them. And I assume they've done the numbers and said, "Well, there's a glut of sales, then by X number of months, it pretty much falls off. So actually, it makes sense for us to get more people in that, and then they'll buy the next Tomb Raider game or whatever." So it kind of makes sense on that score, isn't it? I mean, like, why would Disney give all their movies to Netflix, for example? I mean, eventually they pulled that off, but that was only 6 months ago, I think, or a year ago, that all new Disney films, right up to I think Ant-Man and the Wasp, the most recent Ant-Man, were first on Netflix, because they did a deal, and it made sense because Netflix has got the reach. So it while it seems like bizarre on the face of it, actually makes total sense. This is where this kind of Netflix for games really is starting. You're starting to see it, aren't you? It just depends who gets it, because ultimately there are a lot of people circling this little space right now.
Oh, so some of the you won't get. So I was going to say that $14.99 a month is. If you buy one game a month for say £30 or for $30, $40, then that covers the cost of it pretty much. You're not going to get every game, so you're not going to get like the new Call of Duty, FIFA, whatever your jam is, Madden, whatever it might be. So there are still going to be some games you're going to have to buy. I mean, you're not going to see Red Dead Redemption 2, I wouldn't have thought, any time on this. So there are still going to be games that some people will want to buy, but for your average gamer, maybe they only they might have to buy Call of Duty if that's their favourite of the year, or FIFA or whatever, but other than that you're pretty much going to be happy for the rest of the time.
And you're buying little Johnny's discless Xbox for Christmas.
Absolutely.
And saying, right, it's 200 games.
As a parent, this makes absolute
knock
sense.
Yourself out, like, don't play the violent ones, but knock
play
yourself out.
the Lego movie. Well, I guess you can lock it down so kids
Keep
can
your door
only play
open.
certain age. In slightly less palatable news from Microsoft, at least for us in the UK, the Xbox Gold Live subscription is going up from the 8th of May. They say to address changing market conditions, which basically means the pound is suffering under the Brexit stuff, I guess.
Yeah.
So it's going up from £6 to £7 for a month, 15 to 18 for 3 months, and £40 to £50 for 12 months. So buy it up now if you play.
Yeah.
Moving swiftly on. So some other interesting news from Ubisoft this time. Not really news as much as rumour and speculation, I guess.
They've not confirmed it, have they?
But in The Division 2, there's a poster that has the slogan, or the name like Valhalla above it.
Yep.
And then there's a picture of a very assassin-y looking Viking type figure holding, is it called the Apple of Eden?
Apple of Eden, yeah.
And this has obviously made all the rumours and conjecture about, I think it was Kotaku who had a story going back, 6 months ago or more, saying that the next Assassin's Creed game would be set in the Viking era.
Yeah. Assassin's Creed Kingdom.
But they're saying that's just at the moment there seems to be quite a lot of speculation. That's just like the project name. Like Rogue was originally called what did I write down? Comet. And so they always have like a sort of staging name. I mean, this thing's called Valhalla on the poster. Maybe it's called Valhalla.
Yeah,
that would kind of make sense too.
Or Assassin of War.
Oh yeah. Wink, wink.
Or God of Creed.
What made me think about it is, so is it too soon after God of War to have yet another game explore the Norse mythology?
If there'd been 100 games like it before, I'd say yes. But seeing as there's just one,
yeah.
I think they can probably get away with it.
It was very big and very popular, though, wasn't it?
Yeah,
so
exactly.
It's won all the awards, and they must have sort of seen all of this sort of the praise it was getting, and be like, we should probably jump on that for our next one.
Yeah. It's annoying, isn't it? It's like if you work on that dev team, it's like being scooped on a story, isn't it? You're like, oh no, just that sick feeling in your stomach, thinking like, oh no. It's not only they've done the Norse thing, but they've done it really well. Yeah. And now it's going to be, people are going to be, well, it's not as good as God of War, is it?
But they must have known that Sony was working on God of War, like Santa Monica was working on that. They must have a sort of, not quite a spy network, but you know what I mean? They must hear whispers.
A spy network.
I've been watching Game of Thrones to catch.
They've got a team of assassins wandering around.
Maybe they do. The Assassin's Creed doesn't generally go down the route of proper mythology with monsters and stuff. There's a few I think in Origins there are kind of like dream sequences.
Yeah, and Odyssey as well.
I've not played enough of Odyssey.
And stuff like that.
There is, isn't there? Yeah.
So it does do all that kind of stuff. And so
stealth up on a troll.
This is like a new direction.
I think there's a lot. I think it makes a lot of sense. There's a lot that they can play with the world, and like obviously it's got the shipbuilding stuff and the boating stuff.
The boat stuff. They love some boat stuff, don't they?
At least it won't be canon like with rubbish. But you'll probably be like firing
Vikings.
Firing whole
Vikings.
Come on, Fredrickson.
How did Vikings fight at sea? Did they just have things they charged?
Actually fired fire, didn't they? I think they launched fire at each other and probably just sort of shook their fists like aggressively.
Necessarily known for creating big structures, though, were they? I don't know much about
the longboats were really big. The actual that kind of big Viking.
No, I think Luke's meaning things that you chuck yourself off the top of.
Oh right, okay, yeah. I suppose
it's all kind of villages and.
That is going to be a problem. I suppose they're going to maybe they'll bring in some kind of like traversal of mountains, because obviously, or kind of more bring in the landscape like they tried to do with 3, but it didn't go very well because that game wasn't very good. But they might bring in some more of that kind of traversal of landscape. A bit like I haven't played Odyssey, but I think it uses the world quite a lot, because obviously in ancient Greece, I mean, like there was big buildings, but it wasn't like kind of, in Italy or something like that.
Yeah, there was no like skyscraper.
No. But you'll still probably do your eagle vision, and then like
It does seem that Assassin's Creed has got completely away now from you really being an assassin.
Yes,
like in Odyssey, when you play as but when you play like I played the first little bit of Odyssey, and they're not assassins in any way, shape or form. They're just warriors at that stage, really.
It's just like it's set in an era of time, and it's got this vague backstory, but ultimately it's just like, look, it's historical action, isn't it? Like in
historical action.
I love historical action. But I think it could be quite good. It seems like they've really turned a corner with Origins, and people seem to have loved Odyssey. It got a lot of people sort of knocking on Game of the Year last year. I like the way they're doing it, not on a year cycle, because that really battered that franchise so hard. And by it got to Syndicate, it was just it's a bit of a damp rag, wasn't it? Really, and it needed restarting.
Although Syndicate was one of the more popular, apparently of the classic formula, people really like Syndicate.
It was.
Well, speaking of Ubisoft games set in London, although not in oldie worldy London, so Watch Dogs 3. It's not quite confirmed, is it? But the rumour has it that it will definitely be set in London. Brixton, for some reason, seems to be the place. Minor spoilers for Watch Dogs 2, but there are some coordinates unveiled in an alternative ending of Watch Dogs 2, which then leads. It's the coordinates of Brixton in London. And that obviously made people think that it's going to be set in London anyway. But now more and more rumours have sort of snowballed that this is definitely going to be unveiled at E3.
Yeah.
I was reading some interesting kind of rumours on Reddit and stuff before, where because the UK, like Watch Dogs 2 went down a very like non-violent route. Like you could still kill people with guns, but they encouraged you to be stealthy and use technology and little drones and that to stun people as much as possible. So by then putting the game in the UK, where obviously we don't have huge rifles on sale and things like that in shops, it's kind of like a way again to take a step further back from it being quite gunny.
Yeah.
So yeah, I actually appreciate getting away sometimes from games which are just shoot that person. It's kind of nice to have a bit more nuance to it. So it does sound really interesting.
Well, yeah, I mean, one of the things that Watch Dogs 2 did really well, like you said, was it. Yes, there was a complete arsenal of guns available to you, but you didn't have to use them. Like you say, I finished that game and I barely fired a shot off because I was using the drones. I was electrocuting people with devices. It was a lot of fun planning out your.
Still
attack.
quite violent.
Yeah, still quite violent. But
Jack and his devices.
Look, it's a victimless crime. These were bad guys. But they gave you this whole. This whole set of kit and gear and gadgets to use, and it was a lot of fun exploring how to use them, because you've played a lot of games where you're using a gun and shooting people. That's kind of old hat really, but
it feels like in the first game it had quite a dark tone to it. The second game was quite light, wasn't it? It was quite like playful.
It was
stuff.
like it's really tongue-in-cheek, and they knew exactly what they were doing. The characters, all the hackers were larger than life. It was basically like
stereotypes.
Yeah, it was like the film Hackers with Johnny Lee Miller, but in a video game
where he met Angelina Jolie, and they would later marry.
Sad times.
Yeah.
Johnny Lee Miller scoop.
Yeah. From 40 years ago.
I've completely forgotten what I was going to say. I know what I was going to say. It'd be cool to see. I can't remember what the last game was that did London in a modern day setting. It's not been done for a while.
Maybe with a Getaway. Yeah, I can remember that game, and like obviously the first Grand Theft Auto was in London as well. But like, it feels like it's nice just to get out, try something new. Like actually, developers have the confidence to go like, it doesn't always have to be set in America. Like there are other places in the world. I mean, like I'd love to see a game set in like an Indian city, like kind of like tech hubs in India or in South America in the favelas or something like that. Just have the boldness to go.
Hitman 2.
Max Payne 3.
Hitman 2, yeah, I suppose, yeah.
Max Payne 3.
It's like, but like, it'd be lovely to get a GTA out there, but you'll never will. But just to see something a bit different. So yeah, it sounds quite promising.
And just to finish off with some other like bit of fun news really. But so Nintendo announced its Labo VR kit. And then, to just make everyone very happy, they said that Breath of the Wild will be getting a patch to make it fully playable, apart from the cutscenes, weirdly, in VR. Except this thing, the VR kit, isn't like a thing you strap with a strap over your head. You sort of hold it up to your face. So I'm not quite sure how the controls will work.
Marathon Zelda sessions.
I'm sure people will obviously.
Lay it down for your head.
Well, people will mod it to be to put something so it stays on your head, I suppose. But
you could lie down a bit. Right.
So I'm not sure if it's really designed to play through the full Zelda experience, or if it's just designed to dive in, have a look around the environment, and come back out again as much as anything. But it does, it sounds cool, like Zelda was Link walking, and then using this headset will make.
It's still third person, so I guess you're just the camera.
Maybe.
Unless you do sort of he tracks the way you're looking. So he will always be in the centre. So if you start looking over there, that's when Link will start trotting over the other way.
It seems like it's just a bit of fun, really, doesn't it? Because it's like one of those VR headsets you can get for your phone, one of those like Google Cardboard ones.
Daydream and
where you try it on your phone for 5 minutes, go, I'm on a roller coaster, and then you put it in your drawer and never play with it ever again.
I was looking at some of the footage of the Iron Man one. Looks quite fun.
It does look good
for a little bit.
That's on PSVR.
Apparently, that's like full open world and actual proper game.
Is it?
Yeah.
Wow.
It's been previewing really well.
The Super Mario Odyssey also, is getting a similar update. Although it's not the game you play, it's little mini games they're adding in that world. But,
it's kind of a shame because I'd like more Mario Odyssey content, but I'm not going to buy a Labo VR headset.
No, it does make me wonder if is this the first testing of Nintendo doing something in VR? I don't know. Maybe.
I think a lot of people have thought that this is sort of trying to confirm, or is leading to confirm, a sort of Switch Pro or something that would have a higher resolution
okay.
on the main device. So if you stick it to your head, it's
Well, there is supposed to
better.
be a
Strap it to your head, guaranteed.
there was supposed to be a Nintendo Direct this week, so obviously our luck, it will have been done in the middle of us recording this and going live onto YouTube and such. But we'll cover that next week if there is one. I think it's supposed to coincide with Reggie actually officially leaving or something like that.
Right,
but,
yeah.
Yeah, we'll see. Yeah, guys, get on with this week's listeners' letter, shall we?
Yeah.
So if you want to send in your letter for us to debate on the show, please, you can tweet us at GWR Gamers. If it's a longer tweet, just number them, and we'll pick them up. We have the technology.
we can rebuild them.
We can count numbers.
This letter came from Adam in London. He says, I love the Borderlands 3 trailer. We not actually spoke about that, but yeah, Borderlands was obviously shown.
It's good.
There we go, we just did.
And was really excited about it coming out, but then came the news that it's an Epic Store exclusive for 6 months. I prefer to play on a PC, but I don't want to have to start juggling different stores just to play a game. I guess talking about Steam and stuff. What are your thoughts on the new online stores selling games, especially those that are taking exclusives? So I did a little bit of looking into this. So Epic takes just 12% of the sale value of a game, whereas Steam takes 30% off the person who's published the game. So I guess you're going to see much more of Epic sort of wading into this, because if I was whatever studio, Square Enix or whoever, really, you'd be looking at it going, well, it makes perfect sense to go on Epic Store and not Steam Store. Except then it all boils down to user numbers, and obviously Steam's got hundreds of millions of registered people, buyers, whereas Epic is still very much in its sort of being rolled out.
Yeah.
But
It
yeah,
does have Fortnite, so
it does
that's
have
gonna
Fortnite.
Get a lot of the sort of younger audiences who are just playing Fortnite, probably don't even have a Steam account or have never had one. It's going to suck in more of the younger crowd. Isn't it also the fact that if you build your game with Unreal Engine, that they give you some sort of allowances on the Epic Store?
I don't know. I haven't
That would
dug
be
into it, but
surprising.
that would make sense. I was looking at some of the games which I've sort of signed up to Epic as exclusives or timed exclusives. So there's Ashen, which I didn't really know much about, but then there was Hades, which is the one that was shown when Epic Store first launched, which is like the sort of Greek gods
first
one.
exclusive, wasn't it?
Yeah. There's The Walking Dead final season. The Division 2 was apparently on PC, or Epic exclusive.
Yeah, I remember seeing that one, yeah.
And then David Cage's trilogy of games that come into PC.
The idea of the David Cage trilogy.
Yeah. And Metro Exodus as well. So some decent games there.
I think what we're seeing right now, aren't we, is like the growth of the platforms. The platforms are all fighting for exclusive. They're all fighting for audience, and yeah, in a sense, that competition is good for consumers. But equally, in the middle of that sort of trench warfare, there's so much bad stuff that can happen. Like really difficult practice of locking things down. Like you can't play this on this device because we don't like that company. People having to have multiple accounts to manage, multiple places to get their games, multiple places that are better or worse at online gaming. So I think a lot of people like Steam, don't they, because of that. The community stuff is really, really good, whereas the Epic Store, as I understand it, doesn't have as much as that. So you are you're almost having to make a trade-off every single time. So there's kind of like, this is when competition looks great, but actually it can bring other issues that are problematic.
But who does this benefit in terms of competition? So there's been a lot of backlash from gamers about this, and it seems a bit of a first world problem to have to launch a separate launcher to play your game. But it's also
wasting valuable seconds.
But like Andy was saying, you're giving your details to another company to deal with.
Yeah.
And
GDPR.
Yep.
And your credit card details.
Yeah, exactly.
Details.
All that stuff, and you're having various libraries of games you own in several different locations. It's not ideal. Like The Walking Dead, the final season, if I'd played all of that on Steam and had played the last chapter, I had to go to a different service player. I wouldn't be best chuffed about
There was a lot of controversy over Metro Exodus, because that was listed as a game you could buy on Steam, and then so lots of people had pre-ordered it, and then they had to basically, they did this thing where they put a message saying like, this is unfair, but we're having it like, so they really laid it at Epic Store.
Yeah. And you know, we'll see a lot more of that. We'll see an awful lot more of that. We'll see these them battling for this space.
But the,
you know.
but the thing is, so if Epic get a game, Steam doesn't have it, I can still only buy it in one place. So in terms of competition,
it's not like it's a cheaper price.
No, they're not vying with each other for a cheaper price. There's only one place I can get it from.
This is where you get the illusion of competition, don't you? It's the same with the rail networks, isn't it? You know, they franchise them out and they go, "This is great competition." But like, if I need to get to work, unless I move house every day, you know, it's complete rubbish, isn't it? So we ultimately. If you know, in theory, you know, it could lead to price cuts and price wars, but I don't know whether it's 100% really good for consumers, really. And I do worry that, you know, you're going to get a lot of gouging and a lot of like really difficult behaviour where you are going to get things like Division 2, where they're just going to outright go, those guys have taken it from us and we can't release it to you and it's their fault. You know, and ultimately, where does that leave someone if they want to play the Division 2?
It also has to layer into all this confusion. There's, you know, Apple Arcade and Stadia on the way. There's GOG, which has been going for years, which is the one that it's sat slightly on the side because it's the one that restores older games so you can play them, which I use a lot. There's Origin, which is obviously EA's store. There's Uplay, which is Ubisoft store. Then there's Battle.net, which is Blizzard's store, and Microsoft store. You're suddenly getting into the weeds of this, aren't you? There's a lot of different stores out there. Obviously, all these companies want a chunk of your change.
They do, but none of them have got an actual proper platform, have they? You know, it's like, you know, it's kind of people come to iOS and because they've got an iPhone, you know, so you come to Microsoft Store because you've got an Xbox. When you start breaking down the barriers of the consoles, it becomes a bit of a Wild West, doesn't it? Everybody can flog everything to everybody, which is supposed to be brilliant, but actually in those scenarios you've still got to make an account every single time. So it's like you've got to have Netflix, Amazon Prime, and this is on Sky, or this is on this and that and the other. You know, in theory, it brings like more competition, but actually, it can make it even more complicated for people to manage all that. You know, like having to learn multiple passwords and accounts and multiple subscriptions, and like, especially if you're younger and you know money's a bit tighter, and you've got to have, you know, in theory, like 5 subscriptions just to play all the games your friends are talking about. That's like a lot of money, isn't it?
The other thing is, what if one of these companies, it doesn't work out for them and, you know, they go under? I'm not sure. Yeah. Obviously, that's not going to happen to Epic. They have a lot of money from. Although I suppose even any of these companies, if they decided that store's not making enough money for them, they could scrap it.
They could, yeah. I mean, there was a piece in The Guardian about is it the Sony ebook store? And basically, they're closing it down.
It was
Microsoft's ebook store, ebook store, and basically all those books, you know, you pretty much stuffed.
Although they have done the decent thing and offered refunds to everybody, so
which is good, but there's nothing to stop them from doing that, or sort of force them to do that. And this is where we're getting into where, you know, I think there is going to be a debate about like, well, what does it even mean to buy something these days? You know, actually, we're just renting licenses to things, and actually, you've got to probably start talking in different terms. You know, you're saying you're just renting it. You know, you don't own it, because otherwise people think, well, I've got this massive library of games or whatever.
But
you know, I can play them whenever I want.
Yeah.
I've got absolutely nothing. You know, because you know, as that company goes under, I've got nothing.
Although in the past, Steam have said publicly that if they do cease trading, they will release all of your games to you.
Really?
That's an official statement from Steam. So
well, they've just been, but they've also just been. Have you seen the most recent verdict on Steam, which is them blocking you from taking games into? So they put geo blocks in Europe, and European Union has just taken them and 4 publishers to task for it. I can't remember what. I think there's some fines involved, but basically they're, you know, geo locking it down, so you can only sort of have it in France or whatever.
Oh, so you can't buy in Russia for cheap, like a lot of people buy in the Russian store because it's cheaper on the.
But
exchange
even within
rate.
the European Union, which obviously I think is not actually allowed.
Okay.
You know, if you have to basically, if you're going to sell into the European Union, you have to make it available throughout the European Union, or something like that. This is like a digital good. So I don't think, while Steam has got some good things, I think, you know, there's other things of concern.
The other interesting thing, to get back to Borderlands 3, I was looking at today, is that Steam's introduced its anti-review bomb algorithm today. So because Borderlands 3 ended up being this game which was taken from Steam and put on the Epic Store, loads of people, the listing for it on Steam was still there, and loads of people were giving it negative reviews. So it was like, you know, a 1 out of 5 star game. and Steam has created this like algorithm which removes those not really fake, I suppose, but those ventings of frustration that people have done, which
I think there's a real
controls a lot of.
It's an algorithm that just basically removes anything that has a title all in caps.
Yeah. Which is everything.
Anything with more than one exclamation mark.
But I think it's an interesting development, isn't it? I mean, we are seeing the start of this battle for online gamers, and it's such a lucrative space. A lot of people want to be in it, but we're going to see a real bun fight until some platforms emerge victorious. Will it be a good thing? Who knows?
Well, let's leave it there. But yeah, hopefully we answered the question in some sort of extent.
Space.
Let's get to On the Record. Luke, your turn to shine.
Well, first up, talking of shining, I have to make a correction from last week. Basically, last week I said that the Nintendo DS was the 16th best-selling console of all time, just above the Sega Mega Drive. I actually meant to say the Nintendo Switch, because the Nintendo DS is actually the second best selling console of all time. So there we go.
Well, I bet the Switch doesn't stay there for long either.
No, I reckon that will creep up a little bit. But I thought this week we could go through a couple of video game marathon records. So this is where you play like a game for a single play session for an extended period of time. However, we'll say that longest marathon records do allow for you to have breaks. For every hour you play, you get 10 minutes of a rest break. That's a sort of an allowance, and this can stack. So
just have to wear a massive nappy.
I think I can go to the toilet in 10 minutes.
No, I mean if you didn't give them that.
Oh right. People's retinas would just melt. For instance, 3 hours of play would net you 30 minutes of break time, and so you can keep that stacking up.
Could I play for like 24 hours and just go and have a massive long sleep?
Well, no, you can't do it at the very end. You can't just have it at the very end of your attempt. No. So you could basically go for the big sleep, and then come back and do like an hour or 10 minutes or something, just to cap it off.
Right, just planning my next marathon.
Well, we'll start off with a big one, the longest video game marathon on an Assassin's Creed game. This was achieved by Tony Desmet, Jesse Rebman, and Jeffrey Gamon, all from Belgium.
Wait a minute.
Hang on a minute.
Okay.
Who played Assassin's Creed Brotherhood for 109 hours at the GUNK TV World Gaming event in Antwerp, Belgium, from the 18th to the 22nd of December.
It should say something like an eye melting 109 hours.
The record attempt was set up like a competition. So with 20 starting participants, the 3 record holders are the only ones that made it to the very end of the event.
That's health and safety.
I know.
Yeah, touch the truck. I was about to say that though. When they hold their hand on the truck until one of them basically
just buckles.
Wasn't there something where people were in like baths of beans as well or something?
For a period of time.
Yeah, and they had to stay in there against forever.
Also, when the last Doom came out, they had people in London stood on that billboard. Do you remember?
No, that was Tomb Raider game.
Was it Tomb Raider?
Tomb Raider game. Yeah, it was basically how long can you survive stood on the billboard, which sounds like horrific.
Is David Blaine already there? Just going, that's what I did.
So,
Jack's got a question.
Yeah, I've got a question. So 3 people got 109 hours. Did they just stop it and say, "Okay, we've got to turn the lights off"?
I think that was the end of the event. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
But the game's not 109 hours. So how did they?
You just
keep playing.
Going.
Well, also, if you want
collectibles,
I was going to
say,
just
stop and then start a new game.
Yeah.
God, can you imagine like the dregs at the end? You're just like, oh no, I've got about 150 of 2,000 of these things.
Like what version of Assassin's Creed was it? Do we know? Brotherhood.
Yeah.
So I was thinking, that's the second or third
Rome, isn't
one
it?
in the.
Is that Rome? I think.
That's a good one.
Yeah, it is a good one. Yeah.
That's the one after 2, wasn't it, or was it part 2?
I can't remember. I think it might be the third one in Assassin's Creed 2 Part 3.
There is a grindy bit
it's
in
Revelation.
that
where...
No, wait. Someone should look, shouldn't they?
I did have a question of whether or not have there been any open world games that you think you could play for over 100 hours? And I said other than Fallout, Andy.
Whoa, you've stolen me thunder because I could easily play over 400 hours.
I reckon Breath of the Wild for me. It's got to be a game where when there's lots of different things to do, because a lot of open world games are pretty cookie cutter, and you do one side mission and then you have to repeat it 20 times.
Yeah.
So you want something, it's got a lot of variety. Exactly.
Something that's really vast. You know, that there's got so much scope to it. You need, wouldn't you?
Brotherhood was the direct sequel to Assassin's Creed 2,
right.
by the way, so it was part 2.
Okay.
It was the Empire Strikes Back of the series.
Thanks for the clarification, Mike.
no problem.
Well, I'll move on to the next one. The longest video game marathon on a Resident Evil game. This was achieved by Thomas Frey from Switzerland, who played for 46 hours, 34 minutes, and 48 seconds in Switzerland from the 27th to the 29th of September 2017.
Wow.
Thomas played Resident Evil 7 for the duration of his attempt, which in context takes a completionist roughly 22 hours to beat.
That's a weird one to pick, isn't it?
Yeah, you'd have to just go back and start again.
So he just flipped it over, or did he do it really slowly, like really
Really
edging
your way
around?
through.
Of all the Resident Evils, though, I don't think I'd necessarily pick 7 for a marathon, because it's quite scary and like weird, like, you know, and first person as well, so it make your eyes probably hurt a bit more.
Probably, yeah.
And it's really dark in places.
I'm assuming this wasn't in VR.
No, well, you imagine
I
that would be good. Though,
well,
wouldn't it?
20. Oh yeah, it did come out when it first came out. It was VR supported.
But
Wasn't
I don't. It would say if it was. So
Doesn't
I don't think
say.
it can be.
I was going to ask, has anyone finished a game and then immediately started a new game on that same game? I think for me it was Doom 2016. As soon as I got to the end of that, I was just like, I'm going again. Higher difficulty.
Other than kind of seasons on football games and stuff, but no.
I need a new game plus that gives you some incentive to play again. So the one that came to mind was Minute, which was an indie game. It takes about 2 hours to finish, but when you finish it, it then gives you 45 seconds to complete the game. So, and I want to go. So I literally finished the game and then played it through again.
Yeah.
But I can't imagine finishing a big game and thinking, right, more of that, please. Because normally I'm quite relieved when I finish a game because it's done.
No, like even though I absolutely loved God of War, I've never. And the new game plus version looks great, but I just haven't got. You went back into it, didn't you?
Yeah, I'm kind of slowly plodding my way through it on Give Me God of War New Game Plus. Because it basically does give you, there's new loot, there's a new type of currency that you use for the more epic loot, the super awesome stuff.
So you get more different,
red.
like better weapons, do you?
Yeah. You've still got a way of leveling up your character. Because I think at the end of God of War, you can't get full stats on everything, even if you completely complete it all the way. So.
And then why have you gone for this one? Like?
This one. So the longest video game marathon on SingStar.
Oh wow!
I thought it was.
And we're all going to try and beat it, guys.
Yeah.
Lock the door.
Let's get ready.
So it's basically achieved by Julian Hill from the UK, who sang for 24 hours, 21 minutes, and 25 seconds in support of the Great Ormond Street Hospital, London, UK, from the 13th to the 14th of April 2012. Julian, being a Take That fan, began with Greatest Day and finished with Rule the World. He live streamed the entire attempt, taking requests from internet users in exchange for donations for the charity.
Did Take That pop in at any point? Because that was.
You'd hope so.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, my question though.
Was that during like Gary Barlow's bad times? So in 2012,
that would have been the Resurgent. That was when
that was Resurgent.
Patience came out and stuff like that.
He must have had laryngitis, but he must have finished with laryngitis.
Really croaky.
Yeah, his vocal cords must have been mashed.
So if you guys were to attempt this record, what songs would you start and finish with? I'm going to start straight off with Jack's favourite, Buck Bumble, and finish up with Still Alive. From
Obviously, I could walk 500 miles for both choices.
Nice. And just like a continuous monologue.
The never-ending story song.
Yeah, I'd probably start with Barbie Girl by Aqua, and then finish with something by the Venga Boys.
Take on Me, Aha. That would be quite good.
Could you hit those high notes?
No, yes. But I'd have fun trying.
Man, 22 hours. So we had
24 hours.
On the face of it, that seems like quite a jovial record. He must have been absolutely off
knackered.
his back.
Also, how many songs were in that catalogue? I mean, did he...
24.
Cycling
there must
through
be some
lots of different
repeats.
ones.
How long is your average song? About 4 minutes. So 24 hours, 4 minutes.
That's a
That's
lot.
Take that again.
Yeah. I must have needed 10 minutes breaks just to like gargle or
I do remember that game because I did own that game at one point. That you could purchase lots of different songs, and there was quite a big library of them.
I hope that was it a Sony title or was it Ubisoft SingStar?
Yeah, I think it was Sony.
I hope they at least gave him codes for all of the songs before he
spend all that money.
He had to keep stopping to put his credit card details. Hold on a minute, I'm still singing.
Oh god, that's so. Yeah, you were going to.
So yeah,
explain.
marathons are fun to do. They are long, I guess, and they are can be quite arduous. But if you wanted to give one a go, you just need to head to GuinnessWorldRecords.com and you can apply through there. When it comes to the sort of setup for doing a marathon, you do need to have witnesses there. And the witnesses can only work in sort of 4-hour shifts. So you've got to make sure that they are sort of like new witnesses were coming in and that they're sort of taking logbooks of when you take your rest breaks. So you kind of do need a bit of support when doing a marathon, but you know, you can do them for good causes, like for charity, and they do make for very impressive records.
And we do like them in the book.
And we do like them in the book. Yeah.
It isn't as complicated as it sounds. I mean, we help you through the process and all that stuff. So
there are guidelines. You get all these sort of rules and everything to abide by, and sort of, you know, we've got how-tos for how to present your evidence and stuff like that. So you just need to follow all of that. You'll be good to go.
Yeah. And you can choose any game, I think, can't you?
I mean, basically, it depends. You know, we're open to suggestions. We've got sort of game-specific ones. We've also got genre-specific titles. So.
Right. Wouldn't it be great if Mike led by example and did a marathon himself? I'm just wondering.
Tetris
every day
marathon.
of my life. Yeah, actually, I could do a Tetris.
Tweet if
Tetris
you think
marathon.
that Mike should do that. Tweet in.
He has to do the SingStar one.
Actually, I think you'll find that as an employee of Guinness World Records, I'm not actually allowed.
But you two can.
Yeah.
Right. Wow.
Desert Bus, Andy?
I can do 15 minutes on Call of Duty.
I think Desert Bus might have a
Probably
record
has
on the
got
system.
Oh,
yeah.
Desert Bus, with the Penn and Teller game.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway, that is all we've got time for. Thanks all you guys. That was really good.
Pleasure.
Good show. Yeah, so just say again, like I said at the top of the show, if you've enjoyed what you've been listening to, then check out our other material. If you Google Guinness World Records Gamers Podcast, you will find us on Twitter and not Twitter.
Went a bit West Country there, didn't you?
Yeah, you can watch us on YouTube and listen to us on iTunes, Spotify, and all of the other places you would find a podcast. And you can get in touch with us on Twitter at GWR Gamers. Please do. And I suppose if you've got a marathon idea, you can even, in the first instance, get in touch via that too, if you'd like.
Yeah.
And we will point you in the direction of where to go. Great. Thanks for listening. I have been Mike Plant. This has been Luke Wakeham.
Goodbye.
Jack Turner.
Bye.
And Andy Loughlin.
Goodbye.
All right, until next week. Thanks very much. Bye.
Bye.